It is a scenario that defies not just the heart, but the very concept of closure. Imagine a mother tragically found deceased alongside her two 6-year-old children within the walls of their own home. It is a loss that should unite a family in grief. But in the case of Charity Beallis, the tragedy did not end when the police tape was put up. When Charity was laid to rest in late December, she was buried alone. Despite the pleas of her surviving adult son, and despite the circumstances surrounding the end of her life, the remains of her 6-year-old twins were not released to her side of the family. Instead, under the strict letter of the law, they were released to their father, a man Charity had been in the process of divorcing. A man who just weeks prior had been convicted of domestic battery against her. How does this happen? Or how does a system allow for such a painful separation after death? And why, months later, are authorities remaining so tight-lipped about what happened inside that mansion in Bonanza, Arkansas? Today, we are breaking down the timeline, the court records, and the devastating legal reality of the Charity Beallis case. To understand the gravity of this situation, we must first look at the timeline of events that unfolded in early December 2025. The setting is Bonanza, Arkansas, a small, generally quiet community in Sebastian County. Charity Beallis, a 40-year-old mother, was living in a large residence, described in reports as a mansion, with her 6-year-old twins. On the morning of December 3rd, concern began to grow. Communication had stopped. At approximately 9:30 a.m., deputies from the Sebastian County Sheriff's Office arrived at the home to conduct a requested wellness check. Wellness checks are routine, but the outcome of this one was anything but. Upon entering the residence, authorities discovered 3 bodies: Charity Beallis and her 2 young children. They had all sustained gunshot wounds. It's important to note right now that as of this recording, the Sebastian County Sheriff's Office has been extremely cautious with the information released. They have not publicly speculated on the sequence of events inside the home. However, the discovery immediately sent shockwaves through the community. This was a mother and 2 young children, gone in an instant. But investigations are often about context, and the context here is incredibly specific. The discovery of the bodies happened on December 3rd. According to court records cited by local news outlets like 5 News, this was exactly 1 day after a critical legal milestone. On December 2nd, just 24 hours prior, a final divorce hearing had taken place involving Charity and her husband, 56-year-old Dr. Randall Beallis. Divorce proceedings are often high-stress environments, but this was the culmination of a long, difficult separation. The timing of the tragedy, occurring in the immediate aftermath of this hearing, has naturally become a focal point for public interest. However, investigators have to work on evidence, not just timing. And as they processed the scene, a larger, more complex picture of the family dynamic began to emerge from the public record. Charity and Randall Beallis had been married since 2015. But according to online divorce records, the marriage had effectively ended months before the tragedy. The couple stopped living together in February of 2025. When we look at the court filings from that time, we see a pattern of escalation that is unfortunately common in domestic relations cases. In March, Charity filed documents seeking full custody of the 2 children, but she asked for more than just custody. She requested a protective order for herself and the children. The reason for this request was specific and serious. It stemmed from an incident involving her husband, Dr. Randall Beallis. According to online court documents cited by KNWA and 5 News, there was an altercation on February 16th. The allegations were severe. The documents alleged that Randall had choked Charity and caused her physical harm. In the legal system, allegations of choking or strangulation are often treated with high priority because they are considered significant indicators of risk. Based on this incident, Randall Beallis was arrested. The initial charges were heavy. He was charged with aggravated assault on a family member, 3rd-degree domestic battery, and 2 counts of 3rd-degree endangering the welfare of a minor. These are charges that signal a volatile situation within the home. However, as is often the case in the justice system, the final conviction looked different from the initial charges. Fast forward to October, just weeks before the tragedy, Randall Beallis entered a plea. He pleaded guilty to a 3rd-degree battery. The other charges were resolved through this plea. The sentence he received has become a subject of intense discussion in the wake of the deaths. He was convicted and received a 1-year suspended sentence. He was ordered to pay $1,500 in fines. Crucially, the court also ordered him to have no contact with Charity or any members of her family unless authorized by a valid court order. This no-contact provision is standard in domestic violence convictions designed to create a safety buffer. So as we approach December, the situation stood as follows: a pending divorce, a recent criminal conviction for domestic battery, a suspended sentence, and a no-contact order. It was a powder keg, and then came the final hearing on December 2nd, followed immediately by the tragedy on December 3rd. This brings us to the aspect of this case that has caused the most heartache for Charity's remaining family: the aftermath of the deaths. When a tragedy like this occurs, we assume that the victims will be treated with a unified dignity. We assume that a mother found with her children will remain with her children, but the law operates on technicalities, not sentiment. Charity had an adult son from a previous relationship, 24-year-old John Powell. In the wake of his mother's death, John was the one left to pick up the pieces. Charity's remains were released to him, allowing him to arrange for her funeral. But when it came to his 6-year-old siblings, the twins found alongside their mother, the situation was different. Under Arkansas law, and indeed the law in most states, the rights to a child's remains generally fall to the surviving parent. Even though Beallis was the ex-husband of Charity, and even though he had been convicted of domestic battery against her weeks prior, he was still the legal father of the twins. Unless a parent has had their rights fully terminated, which is a specific and difficult legal process, or unless they have been formally charged with the death of the child, they retain next of kin status. This legal reality led to a devastating outcome. The bodies of the twins were released to Randall Beallis. On December 29th, Charity Beallis was buried. She was buried alone. Her son John told the press that he did not even know if the twins had been buried or cremated. He said, I don't know anything at the moment because Randall has told me nothing. While the family was grappling with the release of the bodies, the legal machinery continued to turn with jarring speed. Remember, the bodies were found on December 3rd. Just one day later, on December 4th, Randall Beallis' attorney filed a motion in court. The motion was to dismiss the divorce case. The reasoning cited in court records was simple and undeniably cold. The plaintiff has passed away. But the biggest question remains: what is happening with the criminal investigation? As of the recording of this video, the Sebastian County Sheriff's Office has declined to comment on whether Randall Beallis is a suspect. This silence is standard in ongoing investigations, especially those involving minors and complex forensic evidence. It is crucial, legally and ethically, to state that Randall Beallis has not been charged in connection with the deaths of Charity or the twins. He has been convicted of the prior domestic battery, but regarding the tragedy on December 3rd, no charges have been filed against anyone. The case of Charity Beallis is a grim case study in the intersection of family law, criminal history, and the rights of next of kin. It exposes the gaps in a system where a protective order can exist on paper, but the ultimate tragedy can still occur. It also highlights a painful legislative reality: that a conviction for abusing a spouse does not automatically strip a parent of the right to control their children's final resting place. John Powell and the rest of Charity's family are currently waiting. They are waiting for answers from the sheriff's office. They are waiting for the final autopsy results. And they are waiting to see if the system that they feel failed Charity in life will offer any resolution in her death. We will be monitoring this case closely. As soon as officials release the cause of death or name a suspect, we will bring you that update. This is a developing story, and the investigation is active. If you want to stay informed on this case and others involving complex legal mysteries, please make sure you are subscribed and have notifications turned on. Our thoughts are with John Powell and everyone who loved Charity and those two innocent children. Thank you for watching.